Imagine for a moment that you've dedicated your entire life to science, that you've built a brilliant career saving lives, trusting only in what your eyes can see and your hands can touch, and then, in the blink of an eye, everything crumbles. Not because of medical malpractice, not because of human error, but because of something that defies all the logic you've ever known. This is the true story of a surgeon who spent decades denying God until the day he died and met Jesus face to face. What would you do if you discovered that everything you believed in for years was wrong? If the science you respected so much was just a small part of a much greater truth? Today, we're diving into an experience that not only transformed one life, but questioned the very foundations of modern medicine. Dr. Michael Harrison was the kind of doctor we'd all want to have. 42 years old, renowned cardiovascular surgeon with more than 2 decades saving lives at one of the country's most prestigious hospitals. His hands were considered divine by colleagues, but he himself rejected any reference to the divine. For Michael, medicine was pure science, and God was just a human invention to explain the inexplicable. For years, he witnessed patients praying before surgeries, families clinging to faith in moments of despair, and always reacted with polite indifference. Recovery depends on surgical technique, proper medication, and the organism's biological response. He used to tell residents, nothing more, nothing less. His reputation was impeccable, his results impressive, and his disbelief unshakable. But everything changed on a Tuesday in March. Michael was performing a complex surgery when he felt sudden chest pain. The world started spinning. His vision darkened, and he collapsed right there in the operating room. Sudden cardiac arrest. His own colleagues fought desperately to save him, applying all the protocols he himself had taught. For 17 minutes, Dr. Michael Harrison was clinically dead, and it was during those 17 minutes that his life changed forever. Michael describes an experience that defies any medical explanation. He found himself floating above his own body, watching the medical team work frantically. But he felt no panic or fear. On the contrary, an indescribable peace took hold of him. It was as if he was finally home after a long journey. Then, a light began to form in the distance. It wasn't just bright, it was alive. It pulsed with a love he had never experienced, couldn't even comprehend. And from that light, a figure approached. Michael knew, without a shadow of doubt, that he was in the presence of Jesus Christ. There was no doubt, no scientific questioning. It was a certainty that transcended any logic. Jesus didn't speak with words, but somehow Michael understood everything. He saw his entire life pass before his eyes, not his judgment, but his understanding. Every moment of disbelief, every missed opportunity to recognize the divine, every time he chose scientific arrogance over spiritual humility. And even so, there was only love in that encounter. An unconditional love that the doctor never imagined was possible. The conversation, if we can call it that, lasted what seemed like hours, though in the physical world it was only minutes. Jesus showed Michael the true purpose of his profession. It wasn't just fixing bodies, but being an instrument of divine healing. His hands weren't just skillful through training and talent, but because they were blessed to serve a greater purpose. Every life saved was a miracle disguised as science. When Michael finally awakened in the ICU 3 days later, he was a completely different man. His colleagues expected to find the same skeptical surgeon as always, perhaps a little shaken by the traumatic experience. But the man who opened his eyes in that hospital bed had a light in his gaze that no one had seen before. And the first words that came out of his mouth were, "I need to tell everyone that Jesus is real." In the following days, Michael faced the biggest dilemma of his career. How could he continue practicing medicine the same way, now knowing there was a spiritual dimension he had ignored for decades? How could he explain to patients and colleagues that his perspective on life and death had completely changed? The answer came dramatically and unexpectedly. 1 week after being discharged, Dr. Michael Harrison made a decision that shocked the entire medical community. He closed his private practice, canceled all scheduled surgeries, and announced he would leave traditional medicine. Not due to incapacity or trauma, but because he had found a truth he could no longer ignore. His mission was now different. Michael began sharing his experience in churches, hospitals, and wherever someone was willing to listen. He opened a free palliative care center where he combines medical treatment with spiritual support. Today, 4 years later, he says he has never been happier or more fulfilled. He lost a lot of money, prestige, and colleagues who didn't understand his transformation, but gained something he considers infinitely more valuable: true purpose. Dr. Michael Harrison's story forces us to question our own prejudices and limitations. How many times do we reject possibilities simply because they don't fit our worldview? How many opportunities for spiritual growth do we miss because of intellectual arrogance? This man had the courage to admit he was wrong, even though it cost him everything he had built. What's most impressive about this story isn't just the supernatural experience, but the practical transformation it generated. Michael didn't limit himself to having a vision and continuing to live as before. He actually changed his life, his values, and his priorities. This speaks to an authenticity that goes beyond any religious fanaticism. It's the response of someone who truly found the truth. Today, when we asked Dr. Michael if he misses his old life, his medical reputation, and social status, he smiles and answers, "How can I miss something that was just shadow, when now I live in the light?" His story continues to impact lives, not just of patients, but of other healthcare professionals who begin to question whether there is something beyond what they learned in medical textbooks. This isn't just another near-death experience story. It's a powerful testimony of how truth can completely transform in existence. And it leaves us with a crucial question. Are we open enough to recognize when our convictions need to be Do we have the necessary humility to admit that maybe we do, know everything we think we know? If this story touched you in some way, share your own reflections about faith, science, and personal transformation in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories that challenge our understanding of life and spirituality. Like this video if it brought a new perspective to you. Until next time.